Welcome back to Up the Villa podcast. If you are new, hit subscribe, drop this video a like. Let's go. 800 likes on this video. That can be our little target. And get involved in everything we discuss on this episode. Aston Villa returned to Bodymoor Heath over the weekend, and my excitement levels have now just risen because I am now calling. We are officially at the start of the season now. This is the start. We're building now towards our European winning campaign. So it starts right now. And we've got quite a bit to talk about on this episode. Thanks everyone that joined me and Justin for the last one. It went down really well. All of you were engaging. And I know this one is going to be a bit of a talking point, and I can imagine how the reaction's going to be, but this is why we're here. We're here to start a conversation, and you guys at home run with it, and you drop your thoughts so we can see where we are all at. So, Philippe Coutinho. Let's talk Coutinho. So, my general vibe is as follows. Last season was not the greatest from Coutinho, but it was hampered with a lot of injuries. And his main part of the season when Coutinho was playing for Aston Villa was under Steven Gerrard. And at that point, this falls into my next point of what I've been kind of saying for the last couple of weeks about football in the Premier League. And it's that of gone of the days now where you can rely on a player, and I'm going to say it, for a piece of magic, a moment of magic. And now what we're starting to see is tactics and systems and styles of play really coming through now with coaching and top-end managers trying to evolve the way in which we do stuff. And we've seen it with the fullbacks and stepping into midfield, and we've seen all of that. So with that in mind, the fact that last season all we were trying to get from him was just give the ball to Coutinho, let him try and do something when we were playing quite poor, I think it's too early to write him off. And I want to highlight two games where he was really, really good. So he had a 7.4 rating against Manchester City and a 7.1 against Arsenal. And he was starting to look good, wasn't he, Justin?
Yeah.
And then he got injured. So with that being said, my vibe is that with us in Europe, he can do some damage. He can do some damage against some of them teams in Europe. And I just think if he can get back to some consistency and fitness, I think he's still got a lot to give. What are you saying, Justin?
Well, I'm definitely in that camp of thinking, to be honest. I put a tweet out after seeing his fitness regime on his Instagram account, and I said, I think we should keep hold of Philippe Coutinho. I said he's coming back looking in tip-top shape. He's settled already at the club. By all accounts, he loves the area. His family get on very well with a lot of the other players and their families at the club. Unai Emery categorically has improved every single player at Aston Villa Football Club. Now, and he's got them to, I would argue, 99% of the squad that he's coached, he's got them to near their peak, to near their best level since he's arrived. Now, if you can get Philippe Coutinho to even close to his best level, that is still an unbelievable asset that we have got on our hands. So for me, why throw away the 2 odd seasons that he's had at Villa to settle in the area, to like the club, when we've just qualified for Europe, where he's basically played most of his career at the top level, to not utilise that kind of player that we've currently got on the books, that we're already paying his wages, we haven't got to pay a fee for him. Yes, I get the argument about his injury record, but anybody can get injured. We look at Diego Carlos last season, injured second game into the season, lost the whole season. So you just can't say, oh, he's going to get injured, because he could have an injury-free season. I will be solely led by our manager. If he comes back and he has a really good pre-season, and the manager sees fit to keep him within the squad, gives him a squad number for European competition, that's good enough for me. That tells me that the manager thinks he's got a lot to offer. And like you've said, we're not thinking Philippe Coutinho is going to be in the first 11 at Villa every week. He's our main player. We've got to rely solely on Philippe Coutinho. He's now number 10. Everything's going to go through him. That's not the Philippe Coutinho we currently own. We've got, on his day, a potential world-class player that can either come off the bench or start a game, half an hour, 60, 70 minutes, or come on and change your game. As it stands currently, I think with the injuries we've got as well, with the Ramsey injury has to come into that equation now as well, because he can play that role. Unless something dramatic happens, which is maybe a Saudi bid for him. I know a lot of people are putting 2 and 2 together now with Gerrard going to Saudi, that he's going to want to link up with him again. That might happen. But as long as the manager sees fit to keep him around in the squad, then I will be very, very happy to see Philippe Coutinho playing or coming off the bench for us. Because I tell you something, when we start playing these European games, if we bring in a player like him off the bench, what do you think the opposition are thinking straight away when they see them squad lists coming out? Jesus Christ, Coutinho's on the bench for Villa. Can't even get him to see. And this is the perception you have from outside of the club. Yes, we've not seen the best of him. We've seen
but do you know the thing is though, right? Yeah, it's only one technically offish season that we've not seen the best. I mean, he was injured for most of it. I mean, if I get up his stats now from last season.
Well, I was just looking at
I am a big Coutinho fan, by the way, so I am going to big him up a bit. But 20 games played, started 7 games. Now, the season when he came on loan, he had a SOFA score rating of 7.09. So that was a pretty decent rating. He had 19 games played, 16 starts, 5 goals and 3 assists. And he was absolutely majestic in quite a few of those games. Now, my point was earlier about sort of like the systems and the way in which we were playing is that if you just want to give Coutinho the ball in tight, congested spaces. Now, I'll go back to Nottingham Forest away when it was 1-1, and we brought him on, and he looked absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible, right? He looked laboured, he looked slow, he looked sluggish, but he was just in the wrong system. It was literally just like going back to the Grealish days of just give it to Coutinho and let Coutinho try and do something. We're not that Villa side anymore. So with an actual system, and we know how thorough Unai Emery is, if he works with Coutinho on a system and a style of play and what he wants him to do, where he wants him to play, where he wants him to pick up the ball, where you have to be doing the damage, not everything is running through him, it's going through everywhere else as well. I think he's got to stay. He has got to stay.
I mean, how many games? I haven't got the stats in front of me. How many games has he played under Unai Emery at Villa? It's I would say less than 5 because of the injury problems he had. So if he is fully fit, and we know that the improvement we've had under Emery, if you put them both together, Emery and Coutinho, there could be real magic there.
Yeah.
And he's just turned 31. He's not old. He's fit. Well, physically, he's fit. Match fit, different thing. He looks hungry. I know these videos are very well edited and they always look like, and you got to take them with a bit of a pinch of salt. I totally understand that. I'm not naive. But Somebody put on his, on Twitter earlier, he's not hungry. How do you know he's not hungry? This is a
Right.
bloke that's lived, breathed, ate, died football since the minute he could kick a football when he was a little kid. And he's still playing in the top league, arguably in the world, now in a team that's playing in European competition. So that should give him a bit more hunger, under a manager who's regarded as one of the best in Europe.
Yeah.
If he left us, he's going to basically a retirement league, Saudi,
Yeah.
America, blah, 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 blah. In my opinion, he's still got the hunger to show that there is still a place for him at the top table of football.
Yeah, and I don't see him as like a sort of like a Traore. I think he's still got a lot more to give, and I think technically on the ball, he's probably one of our best technicians on the ball. I mean, for Coutinho to leave, it doesn't benefit Villa one bit, because if he goes out on loan, what's the point?
No.
If he goes for a fee, we've got to give Barca, I think, is it 50% of his fee.
Yeah.
So literally, he's more used to Villa staying than he is going. I mean, I've got his games under Unai Emery here. So he's played 10 games under Unai Emery. And if we have a look at some of his average ratings for those games, I mean, a 6.8 against Spurs. We won't say much about that, but yeah, 7.3, 6.7, 6.6, 6.4, 7.4, 7.1.
Well, like you highlighted earlier, the City and the Arsenal games, he was really good. Really good. And after them games, I vividly remember people coming out saying, wow, Coutinho looked sharp today. Looked sharp today.
I mean, this is before that big run we went on as well. This was the was it the 4 losses that we had?
Yeah.
So we had 4 losses, didn't we? And then we went on this real big run. So he wasn't even a part of any of that good stuff coming out of Villa. So I just wanted to come on and talk about Coutinho, to be fair, because I think,
as we've said, sorry to cut over you, Luke. As I've said, we will be led by the manager. We fully and wholeheartedly trust the manager. It's the best manager potentially we might have ever had. Looking further in the future, and if he deems that Coutinho is worth keeping around, he looks fit, he looks sharp, and he adds value to our squad, which I think he currently does, then I'm all for it. Now, tomorrow they could sell him to Saudi Arabia for 40 million. And if that happens, that's with the blessing of our manager. So then I'd say, okay, he just doesn't fancy him. He thinks he can get better value for money. He can use the wages somewhere else better. We're not blindly saying, let's keep Philippe Coutinho. What we're merely saying is a player of that ability and that quality under the manager we have that hasn't properly had the chance to bed him in and have to work with him regularly, day in, day out, week in, week out, and affect games day in, day out, week in, week out. I think we'd be naive to get rid of him currently. That's my opinion.
Me too. And I think that goes with some of the inconsistency from some of our players that we do currently have anyway. Do you know what I mean? So I think with that in mind, I think he's more than useful sticking around. So in other news...
just one more thing. If you're saying to me, a fully fit, I'll give you 3 players: Bailey, Traore, Coutinho. They're all fully fit and they're all playing at, let's say, 85% of their capability. Which one of them 3 do you put in your team?
I'd say, well, it'd be Coutinho, wouldn't it?
Coutinho, all day, every day.
Yeah.
So that's the type of player we've got on our hands.
Yes. So in other news, it is coming out that Juventus will be out of the Europa Conference League, which means Aston Villa will become seeded and will be playing a side in our qualifier from is it a playoff or the qualifier? It's one or the other. We're not in the one, but we're in the other. So the final one to get in the group stage will be playing a team on the right-hand side. So
if they get through.
There are some decent teams on that right-hand side. We've got Fiorentina, Rapid Vienna. We've got Apol Nicosia, who've been in Champions League, Besiktas, FC 20. Yes, so some decent teams. So, I mean, this is what we're saying about some of the teams that are in this tournament. I think if we go that these have put another one on of they've actually put like what pot we'd potentially be in. So they've said that this is in the following days, UEFA will officially confirm that Juventus are suspended from playing in the Europa Conference League. Once that is done, these will be the projected group stage pots. So projectedly, Aston Villa would be in pot two, sorry. So basically, in our group would be a pot one, us, a pot three team, and a pot four team. So pot four teams, I mean, Coutinho doing damage against the new Saints from Wales. Do you know what I mean?
It's a mad competition, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
I've tried my best to sort of sit and work out all these pre-qualifiers for the pre-qualifiers for the pre-qualifiers, and I just gave up in the end. I just thought I'll let all them rounds finish, and then when our draw is made, I will then concentrate on who's left and who we potentially could play. But it's good news. It's a shame Juventus are not in it because they're a real draw. It'd be lovely to play someone like that at Villa Park. But hopefully this is going to be not a one-off European adventure. It's going to be a regular thing now. So if it gives us that even slightly better chance of qualifying for the group stages, which is where we want to be, then happy days. I think it's good for us and good for the club.
I don't know whether it's true, but I think it would mean that...
Could you try again?
Right, Justin. I think it would mean...
Apple Watch.
I think it would... He's going, isn't he? I think it would mean that we'd play second leg at home, I think.
Oh, that's good.
I think that's... I mean, I may be wrong, but...
No, I think you probably might be right with that because you get
I think I have seen that.
Don't you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was thinking about this, like, playoff qualifier game the other day, and I was thinking back because obviously I'm missing Villa, and I was thinking, remember the scenes when we actually got into this sort of playoff game? But imagine the scenes when we get into the group stage. Do you know what I mean? And then we get it's going to be wicked, man.
It's going to be a real roller coaster. I mean, I remember European nights at Villa, and I took them for granted. I think when I was younger, seeing the kind of teams I saw down Villa regularly, into Milan's with the Klinsmans and the Bergkamps and the Bergomis turning up. So I'm going to just absolutely enjoy every minute of it. I mean, my Warsaw ticket turned up yesterday, so I feel like the season's upon us now when you start getting tickets turning up for games.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff, isn't it? And yeah, I mean, I was talking to my girlfriend's brother today, and he was like, "Do you remember Ajax?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do a bit, but like, look at their team: Suarez, Huntelaar, like their team, Vermaelen, even Vermaelen. Do you know what I mean? Like that team that we beat, class, man, absolutely quality. So, just the thought of like Europe and being back is just.
Well, them Thursday nights with the they have a theme tune as well, don't they? The Conference League. So once we get you that and the lights are going, and yes, it's definitely whets the appetite for the return of football. So, and it adds a lovely, amazing dimension to the season. You know, these Thursday night, Sunday games, and just got to get the squad ready to go, haven't we now? So hopefully add a bit more depth, which is what we all want now. But hopefully we'll be ready to go.
Yeah, I think we will, and I think it's like, I know you can get like squeaky bum time at the minute, and everybody wants transfers. Everybody wants all the transfers in now, but it never works like that, does it? I mean, look at this one transfer that sort of like we all know is happening, but it's only really now going to be confirmed this week, and that's Declan Rice to Arsenal. Like that one's been going on for absolutely weeks and weeks, and it takes ages, don't it, to get these done. There's a lot of like sounding out. There's a lot of trying to get the best deal, and just figuring out what the right price is. It's not as easy as just going, how much do you want for him? Yeah. Okay, we'll give it.
And again, we are shopping at the high end, hopefully now as well. So I think a lot of these discussions are going on behind the scenes at the club, and there's definitely less noise and less chatter coming out from
Yeah.
the club sort of sources. Most of the sources you see nowadays linking, especially on Twitter, are all coming from foreign
Mhm.
sources in foreign leagues of possibly the agents just trying to stir the pot more. But there's not as many sort of in the nose, Villa ends coming out with things. So I think maybe they've managed to shut down these little leaks that they tend to lose from Villa now and again. So we might get a Danny Ings incident where we just bang one
Yeah.
out without not knowing. So yeah, hopefully the Pau Torres one will get over the line fairly quickly now he's off his honeymoon.
Yeah.
And apart from that, I'm pretty chilled about it. We've got some good young players that are coming back into the squad now. We've seen the two young, the kids winning the Euro tournament, which has been great.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's exciting, really exciting.
I did an episode last week about Archer. What are your thoughts on Archer?
I'm going to be slightly controversial. I'm going to be very honest to what my honest thoughts are. I think he's a fantastic footballer. I think he's a great finisher. I do question if he can do it at the top level. By that I mean where we are now going to be playing, hopefully, top six of the Premier League, European competitions. And there's no real reason for that. You just sometimes get a feeling for a player, and I normally want to go really massively over the top with young players coming through, and I just think throw them in, they look good enough. And it's a 50-50 in my head. I think part of me thinks he's going to be absolutely brilliant and just chuck him in, he's ready. Part of me worries about his all-round game. I
Mm.
just don't know. There's just a little niggling doubt for me. And I couldn't even express really why I've got that niggling doubt with him. I don't know because every
I
time I've seen
think,
him play,
yeah,
it's daft. He scores goals, and
yeah,
that's a rare commodity to have a player. So I'm sort of contradicting myself a little bit. I know he's got quality. I've watched him a lot in the Championship, and yes, he scored goals, but I also saw him go missing in games as well, which is
yeah.
fine when you're a kid and he's learning his trade. But is he ready to sort of what value does he add to Villa's squad next season? I think you've got Watkins. I think we'll see another striker, top quality striker coming in. I'll be surprised if we don't. Don't think
See, I
Duran's
see,
ready.
see what you said then, that phrase, top quality forward coming in. I don't see that. I don't.
No.
I don't see someone coming in who's better than Ollie Watkins.
No, I don't think better. I think somebody that can challenge Ollie Watkins. If we went into the season with the three we've got, let's say we keep Archer, you've got Duran, Archer, and Watkins, then you've got a standalone
Mm.
first choice striker. And for me, we need somebody that can be a question over who do we play today, who's best suited to play against these.
But do you not think we've already had that and we've sold him? Like what I'm trying to say, not the player Danny Ings, I'm saying the scenario.
Yeah,
We
but I
we
just
we
don't think.
really
I
struggle to
think
balance two strikers.
we did, but I think Emery inherited two players. I think he inherited a player in Ings, which Danny Ings was good for Villa. He did a decent enough job. He scored enough goals. He seemed to be a decent bloke around the training ground. He just didn't fit in with the philosophy of Unai Emery, and that's why ultimately he was happy
Yeah,
to sort of ship him off. His age wasn't right either, wrong side of 30. I still think I'm not saying we're going to bring in a player as good as Ollie Watkins because that would cost a hell of a lot of money, and they don't walk around growing on trees, do they?
no,
Them kind
no,
of players, so they're very difficult to get hold of. But
yeah,
what I mean is, I think that we'll see a player that can come in and be a viable
yeah,
who's going to play today option. Whereas I think
yeah,
Duran and Archer, I put them both in very similar category. They're both
yeah,
learning the trade. I think I'd like to see them both. I think for Archer, it is utterly pointless him going out on loan to the
yeah.
Championship
Me
again.
too.
Now
Yeah,
that would tell me that the manager doesn't fancy him at all. I want to
yeah.
see him either stick around in the squad and get minutes in early round cup games and whatever, and coming on, late on in games if we're winning them well, or preferably, probably, if we could get him a loan move to a Premier League club like a Luton or someone like that, where he's going to get game time in the top flight and we can properly judge him in the Premier League.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? No, every Villa fan knows of his ability, his goal
Yeah.
scoring prowess. The question mark I have, and this is like not on Archer, it's that we don't know whether we can do it in the Premier League. So
No,
the thing is, I don't think we should sell him if we don't know. Do you know what I'm
no, I
saying?
agree.
Like
I'd hate
if
to sell
we're
him and then him
yeah,
suddenly come back and
yeah,
bite us on the arse. This is why
definitely.
I'm so split down the middle with him. Look, don't get me wrong. There's nothing I would like better than to throw him in the Premier League. If the manager fancies him and he hit the ground running
Yeah,
and become a sensation for us. Carry on what he's done, which he's done more or less every club and every
yeah.
team he's played for at the international level. He scored goals. And if he can do that in the first team of Villa, playing in the top 10 of the Premier League, week in, week out in European football, then by God, we'll have some play on our hands.
I mean, his value. Use this as a sort of like a hypothetical thing. Don't know if that's the right word, but you imagine Archer stays next season and he scores around 8, 10 Premier League
Yeah,
goals. I mean,
yeah,
his value is just
shoot.
literally sky high.
Well, you look
So
at, I mean, doesn't the keeper for that tournament just left Man City? He'd never played a first team game for City, and he's just gone. He's become Burnley's record signing. So if you're paying 15 million quid or whatever it is for a keeper that's never played a Premier League game, and has only been loaned out lower league level, but's got a lot of potential, then what are you paying for Archer? You know,
yeah. What are you
as I
saying?
say,
I mean,
I'm being honest about him.
yeah.
There's a slight doubt in my head, and only can he do it at the top level with us. That's it. But I definitely don't. I think my worst case scenario would be to sell him to a Premier League club and him come good, because I still think there's a decent enough chance he could be a really good Premier League player.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I think it's nice to have that discussion. You've added to, what I did on that episode the other day. While we're on forwards, then, what do we do with John Duran?
I think he stays around again. I think
Do you?
I don't see the value again in loaning him out, because I think, as it stands again currently within our squad, we've got one frontline striker and we've got two current young kids in Archer and Duran. So what's the point in unless you bring in two forwards? You'd have to bring in two forwards, I think, for Duran to go out on loan. But I think currently, I would like to see us bring one forward in to directly challenge Watkins and keep the other two as backups.
I think this is why pre-season's going to be really important. And I mean, really important because I go back to like last pre-season. And if we think about how last pre-season panned out, it looked like there was a lot of running around. There was a lot of running, which you can imagine that's what happens. But there looked overly a lot of running to me when we kept seeing them Villa clips looking back. And I'm not one that says if you lose games in pre-season, like the results don't bother me as
No,
much. It's the performances that I look at a little bit, and I know it's pre-season, and I know you can't read too much into it because teams have blitzed it and then they're poor in the league, or vice versa. But if you look back last pre-season, we weren't very good, were we? There
no, I
was a lot
think
of games that we weren't great.
you've got the Gerard factor in that, haven't you? And
Yeah,
he's old school. Let's run him into the ground and blah, I don't see that now. We players don't come back unfit. I don't think that they didn't come back unfit last year, but I think that was his mentality, wasn't it? Whereas it's tuning them, getting them to match speed, and just getting that data and getting that information into them. I think that's our pre-season now. Getting them away, get that the team spirit, the morale flying. Getting them absolutely in peak tip top shape, and just teaching them and learning them all of the time, everything, getting that Unai Emery tactical board ingrained in their brains, ready for that start of the season.
yeah. Like Villa, I don't want to see him running. I want to see him in that classroom. I want to see him, everyone with a clipboard and pen taking notes. That's more content that I want to see. So please, no running, just in that classroom, please. So yeah, so that's us for this episode. Just want to talk about Coutinho, etc., and see where we're at, and then it's led us on to talking about the forward line. So there we go.
I'm so glad you've just said that's it for the episode, because I've just realised I've got 2% battery left on my laptop.
Your Apple Watch should have told you that.
I know,
been going off all episode.
Throw it out the bloody window.
Cool, right. Content. Potentially something good coming. Potentially. Make sure Justin's contact book's up to date. That should be coming.
I'm really hoping.
Yeah, me too. Should be a good one. And then we got a lot of content this week. So cheers, everybody. Up the Villa.
Up the Villa.